2434 Alpha and 2433 Alpha. Can I get you to Sys 2401 Alpha? Roger.
So hi, my name's Holly Barkwell. I'm the President and CEO of BH Group Inc., and I'm also the NENA Canadian Region Director. We are here today to discuss Next Generation 911 and the challenges and opportunities associated with the transition to. I have with me today Mr. David Hamilton, the Public Safety Industry Manager with ESRI Canada. Thank you very much, Dave, for agreeing to speak with us today.
Hi, Holly. Thank you. My pleasure.
Okay. My first question to you and all of my interviewees is, given the amount of information and some misinformation surrounding the term Next Generation 911, can you give me an idea of what that term means to you and your organization?
Sure. Well, 911, really the legacy systems are antiquated. They're getting out of date. So next generation just means the shift to current technology for 911. I'm going to answer this question in multiple ways, actually. So that was sort of the what does it mean to me in terms of the shift from legacy technology to the current modern day technology. But there's also part of the question is, what does it mean to me? And I take that as a personal thing. I started my career in public safety working for Ecom 911 in Vancouver. I was there for 10 years as a GIS manager and really got an overwhelming respect for the frontline staff in 911. And I'm really talking about the dispatchers and the call takers. And it really, I consider myself very lucky and proud to, albeit indirectly, work with this part of public safety again. From ESRI Canada's perspective, if we look at NENA, National Emergency Number Association, they actually state that location or GIS data actually drives Next Generation 911. ESRI's technology is all about the science of where or location GIS data. And when you think about that, and you think about how every call and every response for a 911 call requires or relies on accurate location data, then you recognize that the intersection between our two missions, that being ESRI Canada's and Next Generation 911, is very clear. There's a very clear intersection there. That means that there's a natural fit for ESRI to be interested and involved in Next Generation 911. Following that, there is, ESRI Canada is working with ESWIG, an Emergency Services Working Group, on Next Generation 911 data models, and with some of our public safety clients on their processes and workflows to ensure that they have the appropriate mechanisms in place to best leverage location data for 911.
Okay. And in keeping with that, what would you say is the biggest challenge that ESRI and your clients face regarding the transition to Next Gen 911?
Good question. So strictly speaking, and from our focus being location data, I think the biggest challenge of our clients is ensuring that they have the effective exchange mechanism, exchange infrastructure in place, and the authoritative sources for location data, and that being street center lines, civic address points, PSAT boundaries, and jurisdictional boundaries, that they have those all in place. As emergency services typically get their data from their respective local governments, it's interesting to note that about 80–90% of small to large local governments in Canada actually use ESRI technology. So it makes sense to leverage that existing data and existing spatial data infrastructure for Next Generation 911. The challenge for ESRI Canada is ensuring that our local government clients are knowledgeable and understand the GIS data model for Next Generation 911, and that they have the proper tools and processes in place to allow for timely and effective and secure exchange of location data for Next Generation 911.
So what would be the single most important piece of advice you would offer to agencies and PSAPs as they move forward or begin their transition to next generation?
Good question. Okay, so you really need to start working now, if you haven't already started, to ensure that you have the required data for next generation 911 from the authoritative sources, and then ensure that you have your workflows and process flows in place to support next generation 911. And by that I mean you have a single point of data entry at your authoritative source, being in many cases your local government. And then that data is automatically, through an exchange mechanism, aggregated at a provincial level, right? And then once you have that data aggregated at a provincial level, it's then disseminated out to the PSAPs and to the agencies in a timely and effective manner.
Excellent advice. Okay. And from your unique perspective, are there any additional comments or advice points that you'd like to leave our viewers with?
Sure. I've been doing this for quite a while, doing it a long time, and all too often I've seen PSAPs or agencies that have out-of-date data, and their frontline staffs are accustomed to forcing addresses through the system. Technology is available now to really allow for sharing and exchange of location data updates much more effectively. Work with your CAD vendors. Work with your local authoritative sources, and remove the duplication of effort when you're maintaining your 911 data. Streamline those processes. Establish a provincial level coordination of local location data for next generation 911. The province of New Brunswick's done this. BC is well on its way. There are other provinces that are doing this. And what that really accomplishes is, if you have that single source of authoritative data feeding up to a provincial level and then disseminated from there, everybody's on the same page in terms of data, right? And if it's an effective and timely exchange of that data, everybody's looking at that current authoritative content and essentially basically on the same page for dispatch and response. The more accurate and timely your location data is, the more effective your response is, and ultimately what that leads to is saving lives.
Very timely advice. And based on that question, if I could ask you one more question, is that
Sure.
There is a lot of discussion over, and people have heard the term, public safety is becoming geocentric and all of the things that entails. And a lot of people are afraid of that term. Can you give us a bit of a definition, I guess, in your words, of what that looks like in the future?
Well, really, public safety has always been geocentric. We may not have been using the GIS technology that the way we're going to next generation 911, but it's always been geocentric. Every single incident has a location. Every single unit that's responding has a location where they currently are and the location where they have to respond to. Yes, it's going to be changing in terms of the technology, but the technology has been around for decades. Most computer aided dispatch systems already use the technology. The technology is used to maintain the data that you've been using for decades already. It's an evolution. It's not going to happen overnight. The proper mechanisms are in place to ensure that the 911 process won't be degraded, if you will. It'll only become better as a result of using this technology.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Dave. I appreciate your time for answering
my pleasure,
questions. Okay.
It's been a pleasure.
Have a great day.
You too.